It's been a year of historic struggle, upheaval, and loss.
Our Nightline team working through an unprecedented crisis to keep our audience informed.
Thank you so much, really, for giving a voice to us. We are very grateful.
We got in touch with you in part because you were really being open and pouring your heart out.
If it's as simple as just telling our story, then if that can help someone, I'm glad to do it.
I'm thankful that we can share stories like this because we're not alone.
You're not alone. It wasn't until I really did hear other people's stories that I felt seen.
You aren't alone, and I know that that sounds really silly and cliche.
I didn't ask for it, but I feel like I do have a voice.
I can yell about this change, I can go to the meeting, I can demand this.
Make sure you just go out and make your voice heard.
2020 did not happen in a vacuum. There have been events in history that you read about, and then there are those moments of things happening around you, and you realize, oh my God, I am witnessing history.
Amidst that turmoil, heroes emerged, answering the call when we needed them most.
First, COVID-19 locked down Wuhan, then Italy.
So we just got the news that we're going to be quarantined here for 14 days.
Then we watched in disbelief as it spread across the United States like wildfire.
We will once again devote Nightline to the latest crisis, the COVID-19 outbreak.
From nursing homes in Washington.
Colleen Mallory's 89-year-old mother, Peggy, who suffers from dementia, lives there.
If she gets sick, she's going to be gone. But if she has to sit in a room for days on end by herself, she's going to go downhill fast.
To the epicenter in New York City. We tracked the virus as it left tragedy in its wake.
He was still really in bad shape, temperature of 104.
Tell me that moment, Amanda, where you had to leave his side.
I got in the car and drove away without him, and I just felt panic.
Watching my son over a computer screen in ICU and not being able to be there with him is just the most horrifying experience one could have.
And we were on the front lines as the medical community scrambled to understand the virus while treating thousands of new patients.
This patient actually tested positive for coronavirus at this time. You can see that there's more abnormal lung than there is normal lung.
Doctors, nurses, healthcare workers, volunteers. We salute them all tonight, risking their own lives and their families to keep us safe.
And joining us now, Dr. Randall Curtis, who's just coming off of 9 straight days of grueling 12-hour shifts in the ICU at Seattle's Harborview Medical Center.
You know, this is so different. Usually we're completely open with no visiting hours. Families can come, families can stay. So that part of this is extremely difficult.
Michael Korodakis has been an ICU nurse for 25 years, but these past few weeks have left emotional scars.
I had a 35-year-old patient die, on me the other day with nothing significant as a medical history. I said that his wife was thinking about him, that I'd just spoken to her. And that his family loved him and missed him. And just tried to say the things that I thought I might want to hear if it was me.
Some went from one crisis zone to another. Traveling nurse Bridget Harrigan leaving a packed ICU in Queens to head to Arizona.
I've been to hospitals before where the census was overflowing, but this was on a whole nother level. Seeing it, in my opinion, as bad as it can get, that compelled me to come and help.
We gained guided access inside Maimonides Medical Center in Brooklyn. Reporting on the pandemic and watching history unfold on our watch is the kind of reporting that's in our DNA.
Americans inside have been taken prisoner.
40 years ago, Nightline emerged from ABC News coverage of the Iran hostage crisis.
Ted Koppel.
Good evening. This is a new broadcast in the sense that it is permanent and will continue after the Iran crisis is over.
And now here we are, every night reporting the single most consequential story of our time. But as lockdown swept the country, a parallel story arose. With so many out of work, families were struggling to put food on the table.
Here's all the paperwork that I work on every day. These are applications for loans, emails that I reply to, the lovely unemployment letter of denial.
Army veteran Danny Smiley in Kansas lost his job as an athletic trainer at a school.
quick update on how the meeting went. Apologize, I'm still a little nervous and shaky from it, a little bit in shock still, but it went as expected. So there you have it, 17 years in a box.
And Melanie Martinez was laid off from a Texas restaurant.
What are you most worried about right now? What's most difficult for you right now?
Paying my bills. That's what I'm most worried about right now. I have rent to pay, and I'm the only income for my household. You know, it's me and my daughter. It's totally up to me to provide for my home.
While living in lockdown, we relied on essential workers who kept our country going, often unsung and unseen. Like Jamil Cromwell, the truck driver I met from the Bronx, hauling groceries.
This is a necessity for the time. This is quarantine food.
And Octavia French, a sanitation worker.
What motivate me come to work, I know what it feel like to not have a job. I have a 7-year-old son. He motivates me to keep going.
I'm grateful that I am an essential worker and I get to work at a time like this when America needs us.
For other families, essential work meant holding on to hope, as loved ones spent weeks, even months on ventilators, with precious stories of grateful reunions.
I never felt so much pain in my life. I was ready to give up. And then I had to remind myself of who I am and whose I am.
I know those are the doctors that take care of you.
So that, as a nurse, it makes it worth it. Risking our lives, coming here every day, just seeing that reunion of a husband and a wife, that was pretty special.
What was the first thing you said to your daughters?
That I love them. That daddy was fighting himself. That's
I miss you so much. I'm so proud of you. How are you? I'm good.
What did it feel like to put your arms around Aaron?
Amazing. I felt so lucky to have him as my husband and so in love after 10 years. Yeah, I felt wonderful.
The pandemic spotlighting the health and social divide in our country. We saw the virus's disproportionate impact on communities of color.
How hard is it to socially distance in an apartment with 6 children?
It is impossible. I was wearing a mask in my house almost 24/7.
I blame America and the healthcare system. That's who I blame, because I feel like it could have been prevented.
And then on May 25th, another seismic shock.
Tonight, the calls for justice for George Floyd growing louder.
When George Floyd cried out for his mother, it was a cry to all mothers, and the nation responded with outrage and empathy.
After months of being locked inside, it was like a dam had burst. Thousands of people flooded into the streets wearing gas masks instead of face masks.
There is an endless sea of protesters.
Let's go! Let's go!
They're letting me go.
Calling out systemic racism and inequality, demanding justice and change.
What word would you use to describe George Floyd?
Enormous. He was a person that filled the room with love.
I know we're all men here, but raise your hand if you shed a tear after you saw that video and lost your friend.
That's our brother.
Absolutely.
After hearing from countless grieving mothers, Breonna Taylor's mom, Eric Garner's mom, families, loved ones, had our nation finally reached a moral awakening?
From that question came our landmark series,
We gon' be alright.
the slate of special broadcasts under the title Turning Point, focused on what America owes in reparations, telling historical stories of land seizure, cultural erasure, from intimate perspective.
No more!
When I first found out that my ancestors were enslaved by Georgetown, I definitely felt like, hey, there should be some justice that comes out of this.
The only way that we can overcome our past is we have to confront and acknowledge what happened, and then we have to fight to make it right.
A whole community filed away in this box.
closed until I decide to open it and talk about it.
People are misinformed about what Native people look like, how Native people are supposed to look. There are Native people on the subways. There are Native people walking down the streets.
We're a land-based people. Half of our soul was here before Columbus ever hit the sand. The land grant and the treaty issues is probably what you consider the first Latino issue in this country, and it's still unresolved.
When you go to give birth as a woman of color, you should not be 4 times more likely to die than our white counterparts.
After everything we did to plan, after every precaution was taken, this was still the outcome, that she's dead, like, gone.
With the distribution of COVID-19 vaccines underway, vulnerable communities overriding their history and hesitation with hope.
We have to step forward and not be afraid to make our lives better.
This year, like all the years, we've tried to tell stories often ignored by others. It's the passion of our team of journalists that brought us to the end of 2020. Telling your stories, our stories, with heart, compassion, and hopefully some understanding.
And so on this Christmas Eve, we give thanks to our team and to all of you for going on this journey with us. We wish you and your loved ones strength and good health in 2021.
Hi everyone, George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel, and don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.